Welcome to another episode of A Little Bit Richer, brought to you by my friends at Legal & General. Here with plenty of tips and tricks for travelling around the UK is travel expert, friend of the show, and the woman behind the travel blog and Instagram, Big World, Small Pockets, Steph Parker. Welcome back, Steph.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on again.
I mean, you are incredible, and I'm really excited. As we spoke about before, I love traveling. So do you. Your Instagram shows us everywhere that you've gone. But I think it's good. We've spoken about traveling abroad. Now we're going to talk about the UK because there are some great gems that you can get just staying in the UK. So we're going to get into all of that on this episode. But I want to ask you first, what are some of the different ways that you can travel in the UK and some of the advantages that come with them?
I think there's 5 main ways that you can travel in the UK. So bike and train, really great green friendly options, so sustainable and can be very affordable as well. If you're looking for a real budget treat, coach or bus travel is a great option. If you're going a bit further afield, say to Northern Ireland, you can do sail and rail.
Ooh.
Otherwise, of course, if you're going up to Scotland, you can fly, further distances, you can take domestic flights, although they can be expensive and they're not great for the environment. And finally, you can do car share as well, or car hire as well. Car share, great for smaller journeys, particularly in cities or around cities, and car hire if you don't own your own car and you want to go on a staycation down in Cornwall or something like that.
I think those are great. One of my favourite ways is either coach or train. I just think I like taking in scenery. You're really just getting into that vibe of I'm going to go away and looking outside, seeing it. I love it.
Absolutely. And I really love it because there's no hassle of driving.
None.
So you can just, exactly. You can just kick back. And for me, it feels really relaxing and just stress-free, which is exactly what I want from a holiday.
That's the best way to start and end a holiday, is just to be without stress. So we love that. Let's come to trains then, because this is always a thing. You can travel everywhere with a train, but sometimes tickets can be so expensive and that can be off-putting for some people. So I want to ask you, what are some of the best ways to buy train tickets?
Well, you're absolutely right when you say train travel can be expensive. I've got a little stat up my sleeve, which is tickets in the UK have increased by 40% since 2010, which is absolutely crazy and is why getting a good deal is so important. So the kind of overarching top tip for train travel when you're buying tickets in the UK is get an advanced ticket. Actually, advanced tickets can still be bought on the same day as the train, sometimes up to 2 hours before departure. So the key thing is really, even if you've left it till the last minute, do check online. Never buy a ticket at a station. It'll always be more expensive. So check online. You may still be able to get an advance even on the day of travel. However, obviously booking further ahead is going to get you a better price, right? I generally say around 12 weeks before you travel. And that's a good way to balance knowing that your plans are in place versus getting a cheap ticket, because when you get these advanced tickets, they're not often refundable or flexible. So if your plans change, you're then going to lose money. So it's that kind of balance between booking far enough ahead to know what your plans are, but also get a good deal. If you want to be very meticulous, you can go onto Network Rail and see when the timetables on tickets will be released for your journey. And then you can go to a site like Trainline and get a ticket alert. So it'll send you an email when they become available, so you know you're getting the first tickets available, which are generally the cheapest ones. Rule of thumb, singles are quite often cheaper than returns in the UK, which
That's good to know.
Which defies logic in a way, but always look for 2 singles versus a return, quite often cheaper, and always try to travel after 9:30 a.m, particularly Monday to Friday. You're going to get your off-peak fares then much more economical. And a bit like planes, sometimes midweek, traveling, say, lunchtime on a Tuesday or a Wednesday is going to get you a better rate as well. When it comes to actually booking, there's 3 online, particularly, there's 3 kind of ways that you can do it. So the first is third-party comparison sites like Trainline, Split My Fare, Red Spotted Hanky. And these are third-party companies that bring together all the train routes, really good for comparing different prices, for finding you split fares, which I think we might talk about in a bit. But they do sometimes have booking fees, so that's something to be aware of. The second option is to go with a train company themselves, like LNER or Avanti, and they sell tickets not only for their own routes, but for other train companies as well. So again, you can do price comparison. They're not always so great at finding split fares, but they don't have booking fees. So you hedge your bets.
Way up,
And the third one is to go direct to the train company that you're going to be taking the journey with. And they often run special offers, which can be a good way to get a good deal. But again, they're not a comparison site. So essentially shop around between all of those three ways. And remember that you book your train ticket with the company doing the route. So if you want to change, or perhaps you need to get a refund because it was late or cancelled. Yeah, really important to remember when you're booking train tickets that your ticket is only valid with the operator that you've booked that for. So if later down the line you want to get a different journey that's run by a different operator, even if it is on the same route, you can't swap them out. So yeah, your ticket is only valid with the operator that you've booked for. So make sure you book for one that you need or is going to be useful for you, because you can't really chop and change between them. But trains never fill up, so you can technically buy a ticket till the last minute. And if you're taking a bike on a train, which is a great way to then, if you're heading off after that, it is free to do that, but you need to reserve when you buy the ticket as well, because there's only like 3 to 6 spaces.
There isn't many spaces on trains, and I've seen people come on, it really takes up the space if they haven't pre-booked, and now you've got these big bikes on the train.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to reserve your bike in early because the spaces are limited. So free to do, but again, another advantage of booking early.
That's really good. And I like the fact that you mentioned that some providers run their own special offers, because I think I mentioned before, I live in Ipswich. So quite often I have to come to London, whether it's to see friends or to do work. And they actually run a special offer, which I didn't realise until I went onto the provider's website, that if you travel, I think it's after like 2:30, you can get like this special ticket called Night Out in London, and it's £16.50. And you can basically come down to London after 2:30, any train after that. And as long as you come back the next day before midday, £16.50. So it's meant to encourage people who live on that route, which I obviously do, to come into London, have a night out, spend your money, have fun, and then come back the next day.
Love that. I mean, I didn't know that, so we learn something every day. Like you're giving me the tips here. I love that. But yeah, exactly. That's what I mean about it pays to do your research, shop around. And there are some train operators like Lumo and Grand Central that are cheaper than others as well. So you can tend to look for those companies again, or other offers that operators might be running to grab a deal.
Yeah, it's really useful. You touched on it a little bit there. So refunds. So I want to kind of paint a scenario, because I know everyone's experienced this. I definitely have, the way I travel. You have a train ticket, right? You're going to go for your train. You get to the platform. If you're in my case, I've been to the platform, and it's either been delayed severely or cancelled. If you're in that situation, should you try and get your money back, or should you just write it off and say it is what it is and let's just move on?
Always try to get your money back. Again, it depends operator to operator. So it's a great reason to book direct, but then also check the T's and C's, because sometimes even if you're only half an hour delayed, you can get some money back. And sometimes if it's delayed over an hour or cancelled altogether, you can get a full refund. And if you spent quite a lot of money because you've got a long distance train journey, then it's absolutely worth doing the research to make sure you get the correct amount of money back.
I love that. We're all about making sure we're saving those pennies around here and saving those coins. So
100%.
if anything's delayed or cancelled, we're going to take your advice and make sure we get our refunds.
Do it.
If someone's travelling further afield, right, this is their staycation in the UK, they're going away and having their time. Sometimes you want to do it in luxury. You want to have that upgrade. You don't want to be in the main carriage. You want to go in first class. But that can be pricey. I've looked at some of those prices and they can be eye-watering. But I know you are the woman to give us the tips. So do you have any hacks that we need to know when it comes to seat upgrades?
I've got a sneaky hack.
Oh, I knew you did. I knew you had one in your back pocket. Go on, Steph.
It's with a great app that I actually just recently discovered called Seat Frog. And what they allow you to do is bid for first class.
Wow.
So it runs on an auction basis and you can get an upgrade for as little as £8.
£8?
So that can be a real bargain, especially if you're on a long distance train, because first class you also get food and drinks.
I experienced that once and I never forgot that.
So the £8 alone can pay for that,
That's
stop
crazy.
you grabbing a sandwich on the way. So that can be really good. They also have some other quirky features like secret fares and train swaps, particularly on trains in the north, like with Transpennine Express. They've got a relationship with several operators. So they're doing some really exciting things to help keep prices low. So yeah, I definitely recommend sort of keeping an eye on Seat Frog.
£8. That is wow. I'm definitely going to have a look at Seat Frog now, because
if you're going up to Glasgow or, somewhere from
distance.
London that's, 4 or 5 hours, it's a no-brainer.
That is a game changer. Bidding for first class. Yeah, that's it. Now we're going to travel in luxury, but on a budget. Thanks to you, Steph. So thank you for that. You mentioned again earlier as well about ticket splitting. And I've been on platforms when I'm coming to buy tickets, and there is this fare split thing, but I think a lot of people don't really understand what that means. So can you kind of explain to us what is ticket splitting?
It is a bit confusing, but really when you get the hang of it, it's super simple. So in essence, instead of buying one long ticket for a train journey, you split it into two parts. It might even be three parts. So let's do a practical example. If you're travelling from London to Edinburgh, instead of buying a ticket from London to Edinburgh, you buy a ticket from London to York and then from York to Edinburgh. Now, what you do is you stay on exactly the same train. You even stay in the same seat, but you've just split the journey into two parts. It's a weird part of our train system in the UK where going through certain train stations lowers the prices. So that's how split, and you can save a huge amount with split fares. However, obviously, it's going to take a lot of research that nobody's got the time for to do, which is why these comparison sites are so helpful because they do it for you. So Split My Fare, Trainline, Red Spot Tanky, there's loads of others. They do it for you. And because it's quite complicated, they don't always give you the same split fares. So again, it's worth shopping around because some have cheaper than others. Some charge a booking fee, so bear that in mind. And then you can either book through them direct or you can go with the train operator. So take the split research from the comparison site and go
and do
direct to save a little bit more. But you can, yeah, especially if it's a longer journey, you can save huge amounts by doing this. And it's totally legal and above board. It's just like a bit of a loophole in the system.
I love a good loophole, but that is a bit odd, isn't it? A bit quirky that you certain train, if depending on where you go, it can be cheaper. It's just
It makes no sense.
it makes no sense. Like in my head, I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. But anything to get a good deal, we're gonna do.
Exactly.
So
I'm not here for the logic, but I'm here for the
logic, but
here
we're
for the budget tips.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. And then rail cards, right? So I've had a rail card for a little while, but for anyone who doesn't know how rail cards work, what's the benefit of having a rail card if you can get one?
By and large, it's about a third off train travel, which normally they cost around £30 a year, and you usually make that back in 2 to 3 journeys. So if you travel at all by train, it's basically worth doing. There's 9 different ones in the UK, but there's 4 that I think are most relevant. That's the Young Person's Rail Card, which is 18 to 25. Then there's another one that's if you're aged 26 to 30. There's another one called the Network Rail Card that is great if you live in London or the South East because it's a geographically targeted one. And the other one is 2 together. So if you've got a partner or a friend that you go away with a lot, that's great because you travel on the same train together and you both get a third off. They normally last a year, the rail cards, and they can be loaded digitally onto your phone, so it's really hassle-free. Few different companies sell them, Network Rail, Trip.com, Trainline. So what I recommend doing, if you haven't got one already, is signing up to the email alerts on these companies because they often run deals to get them, and you can get up to 15% off, so then, yeah, you're saving even more. And if it's an age-related rail card, like the Young Persons or the 26 to 30, sneaky tip, if you renew it the day before, say, you're 26 or you're 31, you can actually get an extra year. So you can get
That's
it
good to
almost to your
know.
27 or 32, respectively, if that
Yeah.
makes sense for those different cards. And look, if it's not up for renewal, but it's still worth it, just sign up with a new email address.
I love that little hack.
And get it because, yeah, you save a third. And with the Young Persons, that includes on-peak train travel and off-peak transport in London. So they are really worthwhile investing in.
Yeah, I think the travel in London was the one that I found out recently that you can, if you have an Oyster card, you can attach it to your Oyster card account and get discounts when traveling on the tube, which is, if you live in London, you know how expensive that can be if you're doing that a couple of days a week. So knowing that if you have the rail card, not only is it train journeys, but also on the tube, that is an absolute game changer.
It soon adds up, yeah.
It's a game changer. Season tickets. So there are people who I've had to have a look at it because, like I said, I live in Ipswich, come to London quite a lot. And season tickets, they are, in my head, the most logical way, if I'm coming down so often, to get that. But it can be hard to figure out what the best one is to pick. So I want to ask you, how do you choose the right season ticket for you and what your needs are?
Great question. I think let's be really clear. Season tickets apply to train travel only because they get confusing with travel cards. And so it's train travel and there's a few different types. Generally, there's a weekly one, a monthly one, a flexible and an annual. You've got to run the specifics on how many times a week you're travelling and whether you're travelling on peak. Because if you are travelling, say, a lot for work on peak, a season card is more likely to be valuable for you. But if you're only doing 1 day a week, it can often be better just to buy a daily ticket. If you're doing 2 days a week travel, you might want to look at the flexible season card, which is 8 days travel out of 28. So that might work out better if you're traveling 2 days a week. If you're doing 3 or more, you might want to look at a monthly or annual option. Things when you start, there's other benefits for getting an annual one. You can access then something called the Gold Card, which then gives you money off travel in London as well. But you really need to work out the specifics. And actually, Money Saving Expert have a great online calculator that you can use to work out if the season card is going to be worthwhile. Because, yeah, it depends which part of the country you live in, at what times you travel.
Yeah, I think that's good to work out, because that's what I was looking at when I was looking at season tickets. It was kind of figuring out how much use am I going to get out of it. Like you said, do I need to do monthly, annual? Do I need to just get the 8-day one? But it's just working out what's best for your situation. But that's good to keep in mind. Traveling by coach is, like we mentioned in the beginning, one of my favorite ways to get around the country, because it's just so scenic and so peaceful. And like you said, you're not behind the wheel. You can relax and take the load off. Can you give us some tips then that we need to know when it comes to travelling this way?
I think coach travel can get a bad name in the UK because people think it's long and it takes forever. Actually, on some routes, it's not much longer than the train, and it can be much, much cheaper. Normally, I book coach travel when I'm booking my train quite late in the day, bit disorganised, and I look at the prices and think, oh my goodness, like there's no way I can afford to pay that. And we'll look at a comparative journey, say with National Express, and it's usually under 50% of the cost. London to Bristol is a classic one that I do on National Express a lot. I've got good friends in Bristol, so I go that way quite a bit from the capital. And trains are astronomical, but the National Express, because the route is almost all on motorway, it takes, I think it's only something like half an hour longer than the train, and it's a fraction of the cost. So yeah, so do check the routes with National Express. If you can book through their website or app directly, and if you sign up to a free account, then you don't have to pay a booking fee for the coach tickets, which is good. And they do also do a young person's coach card that gives you a third off National Express coach travel as well. So again, sign up to that if you're, I think it's same 18 to 25. And yes, you can save even more, and you don't ever have to really worry about strikes either, which can be a huge
that
benefit.
can really throw a spanner in the works for your travel plans. So that is something to factor in when it comes to traveling. So I know trains can cancel and be delayed and not what you plan for, but coaches aren't subject to that. So
generally quite reliable, yeah.
Quite reliable and a peaceful. I feel like I want to hammer home. Very peaceful. You're not behind the wheel. You can take your load off. You can sleep. It's a peaceful way to travel.
Yeah, and some of them are double deckers. So if you get
Those
the top
cool.
seat at the front, you kick back.
I'm like a child looking out the window thinking, oh my gosh, where are we going now? It's great. I absolutely love it if you didn't get that already. Traveling around London. London is a great city, so much to do, but it can get costly to travel around. So what are some of your top tips when it comes to kind of traveling, but maybe not break the bank when going around London?
Great way is to use obviously an Oyster card or your contactless card, which you tap in and tap out on public transport. They have daily and weekly caps on them. So you're never going to spend more than whatever that cap is if you're doing a huge amount of journeys, and it's all done automatically. So it makes it really straightforward. The only difference really between contactless and Oyster is if you have, say, a season ticket or a rail card that you need to attach because it gives you discount travel in London as well, then I'd get an Oyster so you can attach them together. But otherwise, yeah, contactless tap in, tap out is just so simple. And if you've got a TfL account, which you can do for free, you can actually track your journey history there so you can see what you've been charged, so you can help kind of budget as well. I really love City Mapper, great app, because it shows you lots of different possibilities for getting between places. So you might find that you can walk instead of getting a tube, just 2 stations, right? And that's going to save you something. Or you can take the bus, which is, if you do a single journey in zone 1 and 2, about £1 cheaper than the tube. So it can give you kind of these little extra money saving ways. If you're traveling a lot in London, we're talking sort of 5 days a week during peak time, which, to recap, is before 9:30 Monday to Thursday and between 4 and 7 p.m. Monday to Thursday. Used to be Friday, but they're now running a trial where Friday's off peak.
Did not know that.
That's running until the end of this month, May 24. So, yeah, the minute if you're going into work, go in on a Friday because you won't
Yeah,
pay
going on a Friday is good now.
feet rates, and you might get some fun after work as well. But yeah, so travel cards really only worthwhile if you're traveling on peak 5 days a week, and then only really worthwhile are the monthly or annual options. You know, some people's employers get them for them as well. And if you've got the annual option, again, you can tap into this gold card, which I mentioned with the rail passes as well, or the season ticket, sorry. And that can give you a third off peak London travel as well. And you get discount to, there's all sorts of other benefits. So yeah, if you're a heavy traveller, that is worth checking into.
I feel like it's good to hear your tips because sometimes you feel like you just tap around London and everything's so expensive, but there are ways around it. Like I said, I love doing the extra walk, getting off a stop early. Obviously, you save some money, or if it's just a couple stops away and you can walk, taking the scenery, save some money. Buses as well. I think it is, yeah, just getting inventive and thinking about how much you're spending and ways that you can cut back. I think is a good one when it comes to London.
Exactly. And remember, the price in London is done by zone. So if you're going out of zone, say for zone 2 for one stop to zone 3, you're going to ratchet up a tier. Whereas if you can walk that, you're going to keep it into your zone 1 and 2 pricing. So it's about being more economical, particularly on journeys that you do regularly, and you can, sort of plan that stuff in. And another great thing with making sure that you get charged the lowest fee in London is by tapping on and off correctly. And I don't only mean at the entrance and exit of the station. I mean, sometimes have you seen them, particularly when you're interchanging between the underground and the overground, there's those pink tap points. And people just seem to sort of not really know what they're doing and tap on regardless. That is to indicate if you haven't travelled through zone 1. So if you've done a journey that's crossed zones but hasn't, say 2 and 3, but hasn't dipped into zone 1, you should always tap on that pink point because you'll get charged a lower fee, because zone 1 is obviously the most expensive. So if you have avoided that, tap the pink point and you'll only be charged for zone 2 and 3.
Most people in big cities, for example, like London, they don't have a car because it's not maybe necessary. Like I said, we've got great transport links, but sometimes it can be crucial to have a car. You don't own one, but it could be good to travel around wherever you're going. And I know car sharing has become very popular. What is car sharing, and can you explain a little bit more about how it works?
3 types of car sharing, and they are great if you live in an urban environment, particularly London, where, as you say, owning a car, parking, it's just so expensive. So, 3 different ways of car sharing. The first is where you literally share a car on a journey with somebody that you don't know. And that's a kind of community. There's a whole website called Lift Share where you can sign up and people are reviewed. So there's a safety aspect as well. But yeah, if you want to get somewhere and you don't want to take public transport, that can be a great option. The second type of car sharing is a bit like Airbnb for cars. So people let other people, strangers, use their cars for journeys, so you can rent them like an Airbnb. There's a great website called Turo, Turo, particularly great for London. So if you want to go away with mates for the weekend, you want to hire a car, you can do that by hiring somebody else's car. And again, there's a review system and a safety thing all involved. And the third option is when you use something like Zipcar, or there's other competitors, Drive Now, Enterprise Car Club, and you share a car that's owned by a company with other people and they're parked on the street around London, and you can use them to either just take shorter journeys, or, if you need to move a house or get some furniture that you saw off Facebook Marketplace or anything, go to IKEA, whatever, that's a great option for shorter journeys in London.
It's good to know there are options aside from owning your own car to actually still enjoy the benefits of what a car can bring you, but at a fraction of the price and not having to worry about everything else that comes with owning a car, especially in a city like London. You've given so many incredible tips, Steph. Like Seatfrog, ingrained in my brain. Ingrained. I'm going to check that after recording. I'm there with Seatfrog. But what are your 3 top tips for everyone listening when it comes to travelling smarter?
First tip is, if you are doing a longer UK trip and you want to hire a car and you live in a city, don't hire it directly from the city centre. Always go out to the nearest airport and hire it there. There's a lot more competition, so you're going to get a better rate, but you don't have to fight through the city traffic, worry about any low emission zones. You just get it from the airport and then you're normally straight on the motorway to wherever you need to go. And then if you're visiting other cities, don't park in them. Look if they've got a park and ride scheme, because they're a lot more affordable. Tip number 2 is it's a classic, but it's always take your own food unless you get the Seat Frog upgrade, of
There we
course.
go.
Outside of that, always take your own food because either the facilities are bad or they're generally overpriced. So yeah, bring your packed lunch old school and save that way. And the third one is if you're travelling by rail to a major attraction in England, it could be there's cities included in the scheme like London, Edinburgh, Manchester, say Kew Gardens, the London Eye, there's loads of options. You can sometimes get 2-for-1 entry tickets to these attractions by showing that you've travelled there by rail. I think it's called Day Out Tickets 2-for-1. It's a whole scheme.
Wow.
So there's a website, so have a quick look for the website, and then you register which attraction you're going to go and visit and on what day. And then when you get there to buy your tickets, then you can see you've already registered, you show them your train tickets, and you can get 2-for-1 entry.
That's so good to know.
Which can be a great saver. Sneaky sideways tip, if you're not travelling there by train because you perhaps need to drive there, you can just still buy a train ticket for the last journey to the
It's
attraction.
like the last stop to... We love a good tip from you, Steph. We do.
And then you can still show that and get your 2-for-1 entry.
I mean, if we have to do it to get the deal.
I'm not naming any names, but
We're
maybe
not
some people do it.
But some people have done it and it's worked.
So yeah, if you're looking for a great day out in the UK, that can also be a super saver as well.
Amazing, Steph. This has been incredible. We have learned so much every time you come onto the podcast. So thank you so much for coming back. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much for having me back. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.